How did you feel defending the criminal, as you usually refer to human rights advocates for prisoners who aren't police officers?
I'm someone whose work is very focused on public security, right? I don't go easy on criminals. On the contrary, I think that there in the prison battalion, as the statistics show, many end up returning to normal work.
But that's not it.
They return to regular duty on the streets and in battalions, but how does a police officer come back after being treated like a criminal? There it should be a place to invest in their retraining, not to prejudge them as if they were already criminals.
Do you remember the criminal record of the 4 arrested police officers? Alain Lima was caught on video participating in a murder, and Aldo Leonardo was arrested by the federal police receiving a monthly payment from Nem da Rocinha. Aloysiu Souza was arrested for drug trafficking and extortion, while Jose Luis de Cruz was recently expelled from the police for taking bribes from bank merchants.
I don't know any of the names you mentioned. I wouldn't recognize them if they walked past me. I was just defending a situation of respect. I think there was excess on both sides. That's what I was against at the time.
The president of Paraguay, Santiago Peña, said that he ordered the removal of LED panels in Ciudad del Este, which is on the Paraguayan border with Foz do Iguaçu, in Paraná, after the display of an edited image with former President Jair Bolsonaro, which caused confusion. The images that were shown for more than an hour were of an edited scene with the former Brazilian president attacking the Paraguayan defender Gustavo Gomes from Palmeiras. The content had messages with political and soccer-related provocations, and a group of people even vandalized the panels. There was an argument and some people exchanged punches. Santiago Peña expressed his regret about the incident on social media, revealed his dissatisfaction, and announced the removal of all the panels from the city. The companies responsible for the advertising spaces, Fast Print and Publimix, said they were targeted by a hacker attack. The lawyer Francisco Centurion, who represents the companies, said that the Paraguayan news site ABC filed a complaint with the local public prosecutor's office requesting an investigation into the case. So far, it is not known who was responsible for the attack.
Federal Deputy Lindbergh Farias from the Workers' Party in Rio de Janeiro contacted Interpol's central office in Brazil and requested international cooperation in an investigation involving the financing of the film Dark Horse, a biopic of Jair Bolsonaro. The request was made public by the congressman on social media. According to Lindbergh, the goal is to investigate suspicions of money laundering, concealment of ultimate beneficial owners, and possible international movement of funds. The congressman mentions negotiations involving Senator Flávio Bolsonaro, banker Daniel Vorcaro, and the production company responsible for the film. He also calls for an investigation into funds linked to Eduardo Bolsonaro and transfers made by Jair Bolsonaro. In the document, Lindbergh requests cooperation with authorities from the United States, the Netherlands, and Hungary. The idea is to track accounts, companies, contracts, and the flow of money. But it's important to highlight, so far there is no investigation announced by Interpol regarding the case. What exists is a formal request for international cooperation submitted by the congressman. The request comes amid discussions about the film's financing and the investigations involving Banco Master and banker Daniel Vorcaro.
Besides that, Flávio Bolsonaro warned, he was explicit. That's what's really crazy, guys. Flávio Bolsonaro, he offered Brazil as a process, as a solution for the United States in the geopolitical clash with China. So this is the geopolitical dimension that is made very clear in what Jamil pointed out. Trevisan makes this very clear. He has been saying this, it's not new. He has been saying, look, Marco Rubio is instrumentalizing these processes because he sees a more direct path to the White House there. So there's also an issue of internal politics in the United States. And I just want to emphasize, guys, we're going to show here a graphic of which Latin American countries are in this process, are in the crosshairs, are in Uncle Sam's sights. But I just want to emphasize the following. Look, this is nothing new either. The response to terror, the fight against drugs, the fight against corruption, none of this is new because these are, let's say, inexorable, irrefutable topics. Who's going to say, I'm in favor of corruption?
But there's a moment that I think is important for us to pay attention to, which is when Flávio tries to explain, from his point of view, again, why Lula never considered the criminal factions here in Brazil as terrorists. Let's listen.
I can only think of two things, and I'll say it quietly here so no one hears. Because I'm really worried, because today the president of Brazil, guys, it's one of two things. Either he's part of these narco-terrorist organizations, or he's being threatened by them. And I'll say this really quietly here so no one hears. Lula, if it's the second option, Lula, you'd better vote for Flávio Bolsonaro because I'm going to fight them starting in 2027.
Look, this statement happened last night, but it's already having repercussions because Flávio gave two options. He said that the president is either part of a criminal faction, is affiliated, or is being threatened by one. And that's why, again, in Flávio Bolsonaro's statements, he benefits and works for the criminal factions.
The administration of the former governor of Goiás and pre-candidate for the presidency, Ronaldo Caiado, allocated at least 200 million reais to companies that are or have been controlled by a man accused of having ties with the first command of the capital, the PCC. Between 2000 and 2025, the government of Goiás paid a social organization in the health sector, IMED. IMED's suppliers included companies owned by Tiago Teles Batista de Souza, who is being investigated for alleged ties to the criminal organization. Here's the story. On the other hand, according to the São Paulo Civil Police, Tiago Teles is the ultimate beneficiary of a money laundering scheme for the PCC. The PCC intermediaries even called him Tom Cruise. This scheme is funded by money from drug trafficking, illegal gambling, and scams against consumers. In this scheme, Teles received cash from the PCC to use in other activities. His companies moved almost 6 million reais with the criminal organization. Just in payments to these intermediaries, his companies paid almost 4 million. In other words, he could use that amount to withdraw cash, after, of course, deducting a 4% operation fee. On the other hand, we here at Metropolis looked into the amount of money that the government of Goiás transferred to Teles' companies during the period when, according to the São Paulo Civil Police, he was doing business with the PCC. The federal government's National Health Fund provided the funds to Goiás' government. The government of Goiás paid 1.7 billion reais to IMED between 2000 and 2025. The social organization in the health sector manages 3 hospitals in Goiás, 2 polyclinics, and during the pandemic also took care of 3 field hospitals in the interior of the state. Part of that money ended up exactly in companies that were controlled by Teles, Tom Cruise. It was more than 200 million reais. The Metropolis report also found that at least some companies not only provided services to the government of Goiás, but were also on the PCC's payment list receiving or transacting. And there's more. These businessmen are linked to presidential candidate Ronaldo Caiado, who publicly praised IMED. The director of IMED, Maria Carolina Lazzarini Dias, also did the same with the then governor. And she was part of LIDI, that group of business leaders led by former Governor João Doria. Carolina Lazzarini, Tiago Teles, and Teles' partner, Luiz Donk, were at a LIDI event precisely to showcase the achievements of Ronaldo Caiado. This event took place in Campinas in 2024. Teles and Donk were part of the LIDI committee that organized this event. Teles and one of his companies, MED Plus, were targeted by the São Paulo Civil Police's Operation False Mercury in December 2025. A month after that, according to the report by Metropolis, Teles, Donk, and Maria Carolina left the LIDI Business Club. The reason would be that they did not pay the annual membership fee to the group. Contacted presidential candidate Ronaldo Caiado. He said he was unaware of the investigations and that he had no personal relationship with lawyer Maria Carolina Lazzarini from IMED, open quotes. I knew the mentioned businesswoman as a service provider to the government and I did not have, nor do I have any kind of personal relationship with her, close quotes. Ronaldo Caiado also blamed the federal government for not warning about the involvement of drug traffickers with suppliers to the state of Goiás. The companies that deposited money into the PCC's account refused to tell Metropolis the nature of these payments. Still,